Today we're going to dissect this Monday night game between the Ravens and the Chargers. We're going to look at those must-start players, those sneaky start players, those guys you want to bench. But before we dig in, you need to drop in the comments below what you need from this matchup. You already got your lineup created. You already know what you're going to do because all the Sunday games already happened. What do you need today from your players? We'll drop the blue rally cap emoji to help you out. Help some other people out too. Give yourself some good karma. Let's roll. And you also need to click that subscribe button right now. We're going deep on the waiver wire tomorrow. We're going to help you find those diamonds in the rough. On top of that, we're using these videos to help you set your lineups. And we're going deep on the NFL draft in the offseason. So you want to stay tuned. Click that button. Stop missing out. We're going to be looking at this matchup here. And it's very interesting. It's the Hardball Bowl. We got a 50.5 over-under from Vegas. Vegas is saying that it should be a high-scoring affair. That means there should be fantasy points scored all over the place from these players. However, when I do look at this matchup and it being the Hardball Bowl, I don't have any expectations. My expectation is I bet you something weird will happen, whether it's a backup running back, a backup wide receiver, an ancillary player, a guy busting in our lineup. Something weird's going to happen in this matchup that we're either going to love or hate. But it's going to happen in this matchup. That is the only thing I'm feeling from this. I can see it being high scoring. I can see the run game taking off for both teams. I can see everything happening due to the nature of these two coaches, them knowing each other very well. And this matchup could cook. And I could see it cooking. But I could also see some weirdness happening. You're looking at these quarterbacks. Most of you who have Lamar Jackson are starting him unless you're blessed. Justin Herbert, you either have a better quarterback or you're rolling with it because you saw the 50.5 over-under going into this week. You made that decision, and that's okay. This is a good matchup to push the ball downfield. They have allowed some deep threats downfield to score on them. The Ravens have, so you could see Herbert doing something in this matchup. You're looking at the running backs here for the Chargers. It's the J.K. Dobbins show. He's been getting the touches. Gus Edwards has been worked in a little bit, but not really getting at the full speed yet. Dobbins was a little bit slow for fantasy production last week, but we got those 2 touchdowns. It was just a slow burn effect when it came to fantasy scoring throughout that game. When you look at the Ravens here, they're about league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to running backs. The last 3 weeks, they've allowed 10 points or more to running backs in PPR, and off and on throughout the season. They've either been locked down drastically, or they were getting burnt by like a Rashod White or an Isaiah Pacheco. But these last 3 weeks, they've softened up a little bit. If I could guess what we're going to get from J.K. Dobbins, I think if we ran this game in a simulation like 50 times, I think on average, he's probably going to get you about 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. Maybe like 11-ish, maybe a good 11-ish. I think on the downside, it could be somewhere between 8 and 6. And I think the upside, he needs to score some touchdowns. I think he needs to get some of those goal line looks. Gus Edwards, it's hard to trust. I like him more for DFS as a cheap option so you can fill in some of those higher priced players in your lineup. But he needs goal line work. He needs to score a touchdown. He needs something to happen to J.K. Dobbins. I don't want to predict injuries or talk about that, but that is part of the game. He needs something like that to happen. He needs a little bit more work than what he's getting, if not working around the goal line. But Gus Edwards, the upside isn't really there. However, you're not trusting it. But ways he could win is goal line work. That could potentially happen in this matchup if the ball's flowing with a 51 over-under. And you're looking at McConkey. Right now, he's questionable. Right now, this is shot early Monday morning. Very early. And we're waiting for this news to drop. So we're seeing if he's going to be in or out. If he's on the field, he's going to be getting those quick targets. He's going to be getting that opportunity. He's been very dependable this year and up and down, especially at the start of the season. But the volume has been there. Quentin Johnston's been hot, scoring a touchdown each of his last 3 games. This is a matchup that could be very beneficial for him. He could be getting some deep targets. He's also projected to be a volatile player for fantasy football. An 18% target share means that he's not getting a consistent flow of volume in the targets. However, we're scoring touchdowns. We're getting a good amount of air yards downfield with a 13.38 high. He's a splash play machine. We have to bring in those deep targets. Those deep targets have to connect. They can't be overshot. They can't be missed. He can't drop them. He's got to bring those in because we're getting about 5 targets a game here. Quentin Johnston has to score big downfield. If McConkey's out, Josh Palmer is a good guy to look at. He gets volume. Herbert has a rapport with him. He's a player to pay attention to. You're watching the injury report for McConkey, seeing whether or not he's in or out. The Ravens are above league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to wide receivers. 37.1 PPR points per game. Last 3 games, up 13% over league average. Last 5 games, they're ahead 28% over league average, and then on the season, 30.8%. That is something you want to pay attention to. Remember Cedric Tillman going off. Remember that Browns game? They will allow yards in chunks. Looking at Will Dissly here for the Chargers, I expect good volume out of him in this matchup. I expect him to get targets. However, for the tight end spot, in his ADOT of 4.9, he needs to get those red zone looks. He needs to score touchdowns for you to get that fantasy production. However, the volume's going to be there. I expect targets to be there for Will Dissly. I expect it to get targeted very good in this matchup. However, it has to hit, and he has to get something in the red zone. But when you're looking at work rate, he's kind of safe in those regards. However, he's still a tight end. Tight ends are up and down. Looking at the running backs here for the Ravens, and it's all Derrick Henry. And the Chargers are allowing 14.9 fantasy points per game in their last 3 games to running backs. That being said, that's a little bit less than league average, but he's also Derrick Henry. Maybe he just goes down a little bit. He's good to score the big one. The running backs that go off against him are usually catching passes out of the backfield, but also they're bend but not break. They have not broke past 20 points yet to a running back this season. Closest one was week 11 to Chase Brown. There was a lot of volume to him in the passing game and run game in that matchup. However, Derrick Henry can get a lot of volume, and he can really smash you if he gets an open lane. He could really house it from anywhere on the field. You're looking at Justice Hill as a random dart throw, and he's very random. I don't think the matchup matters. The Ravens has to be in a predicament to where they're throwing the ball, and they got to get it out quickly to the running back, and he'll get the targets. He'll get the opportunity in the passing game. You're not going to trust it, but if you're playing daily fantasy football, you're trying to put together lineups, and you're just trying to go cheap somewhere and go expensive everywhere else, you may want to look at Justice Hill. Looking at the wide receivers here, Zay Flowers is one of those wide receivers where if everybody starts him, he will bust. However, if people start to forget about him or not trust him, he'll start hitting, and he'll start hitting for a run of games, and then people start trusting him, and then he'll bust. That's really how Zay Flowers works. But he's going to get workload. He's going to get opportunity. And the Chargers will allow fantasy points to wide receivers. Some games, they'll get a little bit tighter due to the game script. Due to the game script being a little bit slower, less plays ran. But Zay Flowers could get you some upside. Rashod Bateman is a YOLO wide receiver. He's a Will Fuller-esque wide receiver. He's also good to go. Coming in banged up this week. However, it's the deep ball with him. He gets about 4 to 5 targets a game, and if he connects with the deep ball, he will rip. If not, he will give you nothing. You can't project anything with him. However, deep balls will go his way. This is a good matchup for that to happen if it breaks the way Vegas is saying it. So Rashod Bateman could be a sneaky play for you. Zay Flowers is a guy that's going to get the workload, going to get the targets. If we can get to the red zone, if we can cash in on that volume, he's going to be good to go. Quentin Johnston, I don't think anybody's going to start him. I think people are waiting for him to get more volume, more routes ran in the offense. Watch for him just in case he starts getting a little bit more work. That's not advice or anything. Just watch him on the field. And then you're looking at the tight ends. You got to pick your poison here with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, and that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the year because that's just how this offense is ran. Mark Andrews will hit, and Isaiah Likely will hit with the right volume, with the right scenario, and it's just how football is being played with these guys. And you're looking at how the Chargers are against tight ends. They're pretty locked down against them, only allowing 10.7 points per game to tight ends on the season, and they've only allowed 10-plus fantasy points to tight ends in 3 games. Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride. So the top tight ends. We got some good tight ends here, but they're splitting the workload. If the Ravens can find something where they can take advantage of in this defense, these tight ends might rock and roll. It could be both of them, especially if the volume's going. It could be none of them. However, you're just going to have to pick one and roll with it when it comes to that. I know that's not the sexiest information, but it's real and honest. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.